Hey friends, my name is Oleg. Bond is currently on a walk, having the time of his life. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to do a full review of Yema Superman Maxi Dial. Now, a little background about this watch. Originally, Yema sent this watch in for the review and I was supposed to return it. I did a full unboxing video for this watch. That video can be found on my Instagram page. Have a look if you're curious. But after spending a few days with this watch, I really liked it and I wanted to purchase it from them. Currently the watch is $750 US. However, they have a 15% discount on their website. Not my promo code or anything like that. We're not making any money from this video. There's no affiliate links. It's just through their website. Everybody gets the same 15% off, which takes the watch to about $640 US. I was going to ask them for a bigger discount since I'm reviewing the watch and since I already have it. And they said, you know what, just keep it. So originally this was supposed to be a loaner watch. It turned into a watch that I get to keep after the review. Now that's not going to affect the review in any way. I'm still going to point out the negatives of the watch. Well, the way I'm going to do this review, I'm going to do it in two parts. The first part is going to be the close-up shots, the review portion of the video. And by the end of this video, I'm going to talk about what I think about the watch and why I liked it so much that I wanted to buy one. So let's get started with the review portion first. Let's begin with case dimensions. The watch has a diameter of 39.5 millimeters, even though on their website it says 40 millimeters. My caliper measures it closer to 39.5. I like to lug distance of 48.5 millimeters. However, it does have these first male protruding links. So from the widest point, from this point to this point, it's actually 54 millimeters. It has a lug width of 20 millimeters and the thickness of 12.5 millimeters. Here's what the watch looks like on my 7.5 inches wrist. I think this size 40 millimeters is great for an everyday diver watch. It also has these ginormous indices, so it's not like legibility would be a problem with this watch. There is a slight curvature to the case, but because of the sharp angles on the case and because of the flat crystal, it does feel and sit pretty flat on the wrist. It's not a thick watch. It will slide under a cuff of pretty much any shirt. The only negative with the fit that I see is that protruding first link. If you have a smaller wrist, it might protrude a little bit too much. So keep that in mind. You might need to wear this on a different bracelet or on a different strap option. For people with wrists over, let's say 6.5 inches, I don't think that's going to be a problem. The watch also has a fairly comfortable weight of 150 grams. Yema Watches is a French watch company. They have been around for a really long time. This is not a brand new micro brand. They've been around since 1948. I don't think they've been in continuous production since 1948, but nevertheless, the brand has been around for a really long time. They produced their very first Superman watch, Yema Superman, in 1963, and that watch was actually supplied to the French Air Force. Kind of a cool background behind that watch. It's not this watch here. They actually have the reissue of that watch available on their website. I think it's something like $1,100 or around $1,000. So not a bad price for such a historic timepiece. In 1982, they were in space. In 1986, they went to North Pole. And in 2009, they developed their own in-house movement. We are going to talk about the in-house movement in this video. But for now, let's talk about the case finishes. So it's made out of 316L stainless steel, the case and the bracelet. All satin or brushed finish. No polished finishes on the case except for the case back and the crown. Nice and sharp angles. No beveling. No rounded off edges. Looks really good. Drilled lug holes. More watches need to do that. Super easy to change the straps. I also really like the shape of this case. It has a nice vintage feel to it because of the way the case is designed here with the very nice and narrow lugs, almost sharp lugs, and how they expand into the case and again narrow in. Quite like that shape. Of course, we have these crown guards for the crown at the 3 o'clock position. The crown is signed with the Yema logo. It's a screw down crown, giving this watch 300 meters of water resistance. The crown action is great, easy to grip. The crown is just big enough. Nice thread, nice knurling. No complaints with the crown whatsoever. Let's take a look at the case back. As I mentioned, a polished case back with a nice engraving. Looks like a Y for Yema. not a lot of writing there. And it's a screw down case back, of course, helping with that 300 meters of water resistance. I still haven't taken off the protective plastic from this case back. In my opinion, it's a good idea not to take off this plastic until way later, because when you lay your watch on, let's say, a desk or something, the bracelet will not scratch the case back. Especially with the polished case backs, it's something that you really have to watch out for if you want to have your watch in a pristine condition for as long as possible. I don't baby my watches too much, but I think it's just a good idea, if that plastic is not bothering you, to leave it on as long as it lasts. Of course, as you use the watch, if you go swimming with it, the plastic will eventually come off. It has a diver style bezel, 120 click unidirectional bezel. Here's the bezel action for you. Very good bezel action. First of all, there's quite a bit of grip. It's a thick bezel, and it sits tall on the case. In fact, the way this case is designed, it almost looks like it's made out of 3 separate parts. We have the case back, which isn't too thick, which is great. It doesn't sit too tall on the wrist. Then we have this middle portion, and then we have the bezel. And you can see the bezel is making up quite a bit of that thickness of the watch, which means it's very easy to grip, no backplay, nice and solid, aligns properly. It has a sapphire bezel insert, and the bezel is loomed. I will demonstrate the loom in a little bit. I know this dial is going to be quite divisive for a lot of people because of these tiny little indices. They're barely perceptible. I don't even know if you guys noticed these tiny indices. Of course, I'm kidding. Maxi dial, big oversized indices. It's a printed dial, so the indices are not applied. I think they're painted on. I really like this look, but I know that some people will not, and that's totally fine. To each their own. I also think the set of hands are going to be somewhat divisive. It has that iconic arrow for the minutes hand. It also has a shovel seconds hand, is what they call it. Again, that's very common and kind of synonymous with Yema watches. It's an interesting shape at the end of a seconds hand. Some people would like that, some people will not. I like it. I think it has an interesting element. Now, why some people might not like this set of hands is because usually on majority of the watches, the hours hand is the one that has the arrow tip, and the minute hand would be the one that is just straight. This one is kind of reversed, so it takes maybe a little bit of time to get used to it. We also have a date window at the 3 o'clock position. There is a slight problem with this date window. First of all, I wish there wasn't a date window on this watch. I know a lot of people like date windows. For me, they don't do too much, especially on divers. I think on this one, maybe it throws the symmetry off slightly. But what's more important, the date window is slightly misaligned, or should I say the date wheel is slightly misaligned. It's not super obvious, but if you take a closer look, you can see that the date is closer to the top of the window than it is to the bottom of the window. Slight QC oversight. Other than the date wheel misalignment, everything else on this dial is excellent. I like the minimal writing, Yema Superman written by the 12 o'clock position, automatic 990 feet written closer to the 6 o'clock position, and France written all the way at the bottom there. It also has a lot of lume, as you would imagine, C3 Superluminova, and plenty of it because there is a lot of surface area on these huge indices. Fantastic lume, lasts for a really long time. Of course, the lume on the bezel fades before the lume on the dial. I see no problem having this lume last all night until the morning. It has a sapphire crystal with quite a bit of AR coating, so legibility on this watch is definitely not a problem. You can read it from a mile away. As I mentioned already in this video, Yema in 2009 developed their own in-house movement, caliber MPB 1000. It's a high beat movement, fully developed in-house, so this movement beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour. It has 31 joules and a power reserve of about 45 hours. From my experience, the movement has been really accurate. So the tolerances are plus or minus 12 seconds per day. However, their observed accuracy is around plus or minus 6 seconds per day, and they are regulated before and after assembly, which is very surprising in a watch under $1,000. And the movement itself looks like it's pretty well decorated, very good and attractive movement. Now, the only negative I can think of with a movement like this is that not every watchmaker will be able to service it. I think most experienced watchmakers should have no problem servicing this movement. However, you might come across one or two watchmakers that will not take on servicing this watch, so you probably would have to send it back to Yema. Keep that in mind. Other than that, I am really impressed with this in-house movement and in the fact that you can buy an in-house movement for under $750 US. To keep a watch with all the specs that you would want, the sapphire crystal, the sapphire bezel, the in-house movement, the stainless steel bracelet, the stainless steel case, 300 meters of water resistance, to keep all these specs in the watch and still keep it under $750 US, some sacrifices have to be made, and I think one of those sacrifices is the bracelet. Now, don't get me wrong, the bracelet is not terrible, however it has a few shortcomings as comparing to the rest of the watch. Other than the small date wheel misalignment, I don't see any other quality control issues with the watch itself. The bracelet, on the other hand, you can see that some shortcuts were taken. As I always say on this watch channel, doing a good quality bracelet is very difficult and very expensive. So what's wrong with this bracelet? Well, first of all, this first protruding link really drives me crazy. I mean, it's such an easy fix. In fact, on many of their other models, they already fixed that. They have their first female link. I don't know why they chose to keep it on this watch. Really, that's the biggest negative. Also, the finish on the bracelet is not as good as the finish on the case. With a close-up shot, I hope the camera picks up the differences in finish. You can see how nice the satin finish on the case is as opposed to the satin finish on the bracelet. Again, the bracelet is not awful. It's just not as good as the case. It doesn't taper at all, so it's 20 millimeters throughout. Engineered clasp at the end of it. The clasp itself is pretty nice. It has a nice finish on the inside. Yema signed. And the guard here. It's a friction-based clasp, so there are no buttons, there are no pushers to open it up. The watch also has a diver extension, so it's not all bad for this bracelet. There are quite a few redeeming qualities about it. 4 micro adjustments, solid end links, solid links, but it has the collar style pins, which aren't my favorite. I am willing to forgive it though. I still wouldn't go for the option on the leather strap as opposed to this stainless steel bracelet, because this watch is available in 2 different options. You can get it on the bracelet or on the leather strap. I still go for the bracelet version, however the bracelet does need some improvements. Alright, so that was the review part of the video. Now let's talk about my feelings and why I wanted to buy this watch. Well, first of all, not a perfect watch, obviously. A few negatives that I already mentioned: the misaligned date window, the problems with the bracelet, like the protruding links, that's the biggest problem. The fact that the bracelet quality overall doesn't necessarily match the quality of the case, and also the fact that it has the collar pins as opposed to screw-in pins. Of course, put screws, it's much easier to use. I mean, that's just my opinion. But the watch does have all the specs that you would expect: the sapphire crystal, the sapphire bezel, the 300 meters of water resistance, stainless steel case and bracelet, in-house automatic movement. So all those specs are present, even some unique specs like the in-house movement. But the watch is not just the list of all the positives and the negatives. It's not just the list of all the specs, is it? It's something a little bit more than that. And to me, this watch is very special for 3 reasons. Number one, it has great heritage. The company has a lot of history. It's been in space, it's been to North Pole, it supplied watches to the French Air Force. All those stories are really cool. Number 2, it's not just another Swiss-made diver. It's true, there are so many of them, so having one from a French company is kind of unique and kind of cool. And number 3, one of the biggest reasons, that in-house movement. It's cool to have an in-house movement made by Yema. And that actually brings me full circle back to Yema watches. They have this other diver watch, it's called Yema Superman Heritage. Really nice watch. It's kind of the reissue of 1963 original diver watch, the original Superman. The watch costs about $1,100 before that 15% discount, but it doesn't have the in-house movement. It has the Celita movement. Kind of a puzzling decision, since you have this great in-house movement and it's the unique proposition of your company. Why not put the in-house movement in this more expensive watch, but put the in-house movement in the cheaper version of the watch? To me, at least, it seems a little bit backwards. You would expect the in-house movement to be in the more expensive watch and the Celita movement to be in the less expensive watch, but they've done it the other way around. So, okay. I appreciate you watching this video until the end. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss more videos like this one in the future, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about this Yema watch. What do you think about Yema watches in general? And are there any other Yema watches that you'd like me to review? By the way, today on my wrist, I'm wearing my Casio G-Shock, the Casio Oak as it's known, the GA2100. Really like this watch. I already did a full review of it. That video can be found on the YouTube channel. I'll also leave it linked in the description below. Also, in the description below, there are two other links. The first link is a secret link. Have a look if you're curious. The second link is a link to bondnativestraps.com. If you're looking for a good quality native strap and want to support this YouTube channel at the same time, buying one of these native straps is a good way to do so. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're staying safe. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.